Coming up today on Locked On Texas Tech, stopping the ground game critical to success for the Red Raiders this week. And that means starting with a mobile QB, which will bring up some Red Raider PTSD. Buckle up. It's time to face our fears.
You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Great to be with you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, always free and available on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. And thanks as always for making us your first listen. Today's episode brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use our code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. With the only Chris Level, I'm Casey Cowan. Chris, great to be back with you once again. And on today's episode, we'll get to a couple of things moving and shaking this week as you prepare for a conference opener. One of those things we touched on already to kick off the week, and that's some upcoming decisions to be made as some rosters tighten whenever you take this show on the road. So we'll get to that and some of those considerations here in just a moment. Also want to get to, obviously, what will be a primary storyline and revisited probably several times this week, and that's a big challenge for Texas Tech defensively when it comes to stopping the ground attack from the Utes. And obviously not just involving ball carriers. We're going to talk about a QB as well. So shake the dust off of some of that mobile QB PTSD, Red Raider fans, and get ready for that conversation. But, Chris, let's kick off the conversation with a thought from Red Raider head coach Joey Maguire to begin the week, talking about how big of a week this is, talking about the matchup, and essentially, at the end of the day, what this will boil down to again. Here's Coach Maguire.
And really excited about this week. This is a big game. There are very few coaches in the country that I respect more than Kyle. He is one. He's been there for a long time with great success, but whenever I think of football, I think it's a really tough sport. I think the teams that are the toughest teams, the most physical teams, have a chance to win every single week, and that's what he's built. Whenever I watch them, I think that's what football is supposed to look like, so that's going to be a great challenge. I said it on Saturday, I'm a big fan of their defensive coordinator. And if you look at what they've done, man, it is a tough place to play. I've heard it's a great atmosphere, but it's a tough place to play. They're 21-5, I think, with him being the DC, and 4 of the losses, I think, came last year, and that was without, a quarterback, or with having to play their backup or their third-string guy. The times that they've had their starting quarterback, then they've won. They're 21-1. So this is going to be a great test for us. First road game. 10 a.m. kick local time. I'm glad that we do a lot of stuff in the mornings on Thursday and Friday, so it's not like we're getting up. It's not our normal time and everything, so we'll be ready for that. But I'll tell you, football fans everywhere, I think they're going to be fired up because if you just look at the talent perspective of it, the other thing is you're looking at 2 tackles that are projected first-round draft picks. Their interior offensive line is really, really good. Against a really good defensive line that we have, and then you turn around and their quarterback is dynamic. He's a dual threat guy, and they're rushing for 290 yards a game, and I think we've done a really good job of playing the run and stopping the run. So there's going to be a lot of strength versus strength, and it's going to come down to who executes and who makes the least amount of mistakes, and really kind of who wants to be the toughest team. So it's going to be a great game.
Got an onion with many layers here, Chris. We'll cover them all rolling through the week, but the root of it comes back to tough. Who wants to be tougher this week? It is gut check week, really, for both of these teams, I think.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be the most or second most. I think it's either these guys or Arizona State that's on your schedule as far as like talent or NFL talent or projected in it. I mean, however you want to get into that conversation. There's six or seven draft picks or guys that have draft grades on here. But you're right. This will come down to the trenches. This is what Kyle Whittingham has been so good at over the years is they kind of have been in the Pac-12 or the Mountain West. I think they won the Mountain West like in 08. I think they won the Pac-12 in the early 2020s a couple times. They are better up front than the opposition, and they've got some. It's like got some Kansas State, Iowa State type stuff going on, where it may not be the flashiest style. I think they play good defense. They're really good at home, and they have better big people than you. Is kind of been their theme.
Great combination.
Yep, and I think they're relying on that theme again this year. And last year they were picked to win this thing, and 5-7 overall. They were 2-7 in the Big 12, and they dealt with QB injuries. And boy, don't we know that Texas Tech knows all about that, as you've dealt with a decade plus of that or had. But this is all about trying to be the bully, or like who can handle it, who can impose the will on the other one, and all that stuff. Because there's no doubt, you heard Joey say they've been running it for 300 yards, a game so far. Guess what they're going to try to do on Saturday? And if you can't stop it, guess what you can expect to see more of. Now, are you built to handle this? It seems like you
tried to have it be that way.
You're right, that you are built to be able to handle this for the first time in a while. You've got plenty of depth. You added a bunch of trench pieces on the defensive line. You've got the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year in Jacob Rodriguez. Ben Roberts is good against the run. And is this a you will not bully us because we're going to put 8 in the box and we're going to dare you to throw? And let's see. I don't know. I'm asking aloud there because that is, and their quarterback he's really good, and he is like Malik Murphy last week for Oregon State. He was a scramble to throw it guy. This is a scramble to run it typically. Although Dampier did throw it, I think it was like 40 times last week versus Wyoming, and he had 13 rushing attempts. So it's I'll be really curious to see what Shieldwood does and what new wrinkles you see offensively. But that's going to be where the bullying is. That's where the attempt is going to be. We're going to try to pick a fight with you in the trenches up front, and they've got plenty of heavyweights up front at the tackle spots, as you heard Coach Maguire say, that go, because Utah, typically their mindset is, all right, we're here, you get first shot. And then when you okay, now it's our turn. I mean, that's just that's just the way that their mentality has been over the last, since Kyle Whittingham's been there. So, yeah, that's why I think Joey is like, this is the way football's supposed to look. And Joey's like, we want to be more physical. We want to be able to run the football. I think it's easy to see why Joey would look at what Utah does and say, I respect how they play the game. I'd kind of like my guys to operate this way as well.
Some ladies and many soy boys have tried to outlaw all you're describing there from football and have had some success, Chris. But, yeah, still in 2025, still a part of it for the most part. I also think there is another variety of toughness that's more of the kind of like intangible nature. First, today's episode brought to you by PrizePicks, the daily fantasy app where making the right call can actually pay off. We all make decisions every day, but on PrizePicks, being right means cashing in. And with football back, PrizePicks is the simplest and fastest way to get in on the action. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player projections, and you can turn your takes into real prizes, all in less than 60 seconds. You're going to love how easy and simple it is to use. And of course, PrizePicks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. Download the PrizePicks app today and use our code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. With PrizePicks, run your game. I also think there is another variety of toughness that's more of the kind of like intangible nature, Chris, because it's a mental toughness as well, because this may be the first week, and I hadn't watched every minute, of what the Utes have had going on. I've seen every minute of what Texas Tech has had going on. But this may be the first week, certainly for the Red Raiders, possibly for both, where you've really got to respond to an adverse situation. And that's not just about the trenches. It's the deep snapper. It's the wideout. It's the third team kick returner. All these guys have got to be tough in that way, right? Which is a little bit, maybe even more difficult to achieve. Like playing hurt toughness, that should be easy for most at this level that are on a college football roster. But it's that headspace toughness that may be a little bit more difficult, especially in an environment like that.
In a game like this, regardless of where it was being played, you're going to deal with something that's not advantageous. I think, yesterday it was one or both of the coordinators were like, hey, man, something bad's going to happen. We'll potentially give up a big play, or offensively, like we may turn it over, but how do you respond? How do you handle, can you live out the what's next mentality, or do you melt? And that's when you learn a lot about what you've put together here, or what you think you've put together here. And do we see any cracks? Do they not flinch? And you can, and it's Division I college football. You're going to deal with adversity. You're going to deal with bad calls. You're going to deal with Mother Nature and a rain delay. You're going to deal with an early kickoff. You're going to deal with the ball getting tipped up in the air. And does it land in your guys' hands, or does it land in the other guy's hands? That's I could be wrong, but because in the one show that I did where just a portion of what I said was pulled out, where it talked about you could go up there and thump them, is I also said that they could thump you. I would be shocked if this is not one of these one possession type games like the Big 12 has become known for. What was it, like 72% of the time? 72% of league games last year ended in one possession at the end, or whatever, or within one possession, or whatever that stat was. And I would expect this to be the same, because if they can run the ball, and this is what they're going to attempt to do, even if they don't have success with it, they will stick with it and lean on it. So you'll have to stop this consistently. This is going to be one of those limited possession games. You may only hold the ball 7-8 times. That's kind of like when you that's why I mentioned the Iowa State, Kansas State stuff. That should sound familiar to you.
Yeah, I mean, these are historically, and by historically I mean, I don't know, going on 2 decades at least, the type of context that Tech has not been successful in, where you're facing a methodical, punish you, don't do stupid things, take advantage of special teams type of situations. Teams, you don't stack up well. But that's because in so many of those areas you were deficient previously. Like we said a moment ago, you have efforted to make it that way, and that you're built to now compete in this type of space. Here's your first big test of the year, so we'll find out. But, Chris, I want to focus in on the ground game because obviously that's where it's got to start, as you said many times. But I don't know that we immediately start with ball carriers or running backs. Do we go straight to Devin Dampier and the QB to talk about how you're going to try to begin to contain, or maybe even dream of stopping it outright?
Yeah, I mean, he's their leading rusher. I think he's got – and the problem with him is, like a lot of dual-threat quarterbacks, is that most of this, or a lot of this anyway, is not called runs. It's not designed. It's when you – it's like trying to defend a Kyler Murray. I think Joey mentioned Kyler Murray and Jalen Hurts in like back-to-back weeks when he was at Baylor, and he was having to draw that up because you want to rush, okay, but you can't go too far upfield, or you're just inviting this player to step up, and then away they go. And if you spy them or allocate a defender to kind of mirror what they're doing, okay, then that's one less rusher, that's one less somebody in coverage, that's you're allocating personnel. And so, but yeah, he's the problem. You will recognize the name of Wayshawn Parker, is also one of their top 2 backs. Wayshawn Parker played for Washington State last year, 11 carries, 69 yards, had a touchdown against you when you were up in Pullman last year. So this will be a familiar running back. He's a good player. I don't know if these are you're not dealing with like Devin Dampier is the one that makes you the most nervous because he's the one that can really make something out of nothing. The other two are just good Big 12 backs. But it's Dampier that because you can kind of be in the right place and there to make the play and then not make it. And then, that's the problem. And we know this. I do think you are better equipped to handle this than ever before. But how many times over the years have we talked about players or plays in games where like, boy, you were almost there. Like if you'd have just been a half second there earlier, or where you had a hand on him and just couldn't quite bring him down.
Hold on, Chris. I was actually going to grab my cocktail if we were going to go ahead and get into like Seneca Wallace conversation or the PTSD portion.
Yeah.
Lee Hunter doesn't know anything about this. Romello Height doesn't know anything about this. Red Raiders, long term, we know too much about this. This has been, man, and you're exactly right. So many of these situations where it's the feeling of, we got him. Ladies and gentlemen, we got him. Whoops, 60 yards the other way. So frustrating.
Or in Seneca Wallace's case, I happened to be in Las Vegas, Nevada at that on that particular Saturday evening. That's when my sweet mother, I'd been sitting in the sports book all day. I wasn't doing the broadcasting thing just yet. And I had maybe been in the sports book for a period of time that day. And I had these little stir sticks, and I'd kind of been putting them in my shirt pocket, whenever. And my mom and her buddies and some other people, they went shopping, and she came back and she's like, her famous words were, "Is the captain drunk?" And I'm like, yeah, I think I might be, whatever. And then, because at this point, I'm like, Seneca Wallace, it's like he ran one side of the field, back to the other. I mean, it was like an amusement park ride. I'm like, I want to get off. Like, I want off this ride. I don't want to be on this ride anymore. And the room started spinning.
You couldn't get off. You were strapped in for 4 quarters.
That's right.
And he's not the only. He's just the one that I know stands out as a visible reminder.
I mean,
Chris, what over those years in the moments where you saw Tech defenses really struggle with that? I know there were a lot of just really good players. Vince Young, generational players. So a lot of people struggled with that. But, I think about like having to really be disciplined, I guess, when you're dealing with somebody like Dampier or that type of quarterback. But when it's gone wrong, what are these defenses not doing that you think makes it so difficult?
Well, you want to make him throw it. That's what you want to make these. You want to take away their ability to run the football and like make him beat you with his arm. That's where I think, and he's capable of doing that. But I think you would like to see what that looks like. I think their personnel up front is built to run the ball. I think their personnel at QB and their running back room is built to run the ball. I don't know if they're built to try to score 40 points in some sort of shootout and throwing it all over the place. That's not really how they're built. Just like Texas Tech may not necessarily is not built to be able to run the ball and all that. They're built right now maybe to throw it and to spread it out and really kind of play fast and all those things. But it's just if defensively it comes down to Kyle Whittingham is stated this. It's like our formula right now, playing really well on first and second down, so we don't avoid third and long. Our formula has been, but if we can continue to do that, we're straight. And again, that sounds like an obvious, but that's been their formula.
Yeah, great idea.
Yeah, that's been their formula because I think they know that maybe they aren't built to operate in 3rd and 8 if they have to lean on that a bunch. And I'm not saying that they can't execute that or make plays there. I'm just saying, like, over the long term, I think that they would prefer to kind of hammer it at you, shorten the game, limit your possessions, and let their quarterback kind of pull a rabbit out of his hat more often than not.
Well, we're almost out of time today, but I definitely want to revisit this part with you because I want to get into some comments from a Utah perspective about sort of that methodology. And I also want to take a listen to some thoughts from Shill Wood, Tech defensive coordinator as well, because I'm really wondering, does this mean maybe some less aggression or a more muted pass rush in some way to try and keep things in front of you? I don't know, but I want to get back to that with you on tomorrow's episode. So we'll hear from Coach Wood and others on that, as I think, as we're talking about, it's the crux of the issue here this week and probably a lot of weeks as you roll through this season. Before we're done, though, Chris, I am curious to get your thoughts on, now after some time passing and getting into this week, the roster that changes a little bit now as we get into Big 12 play and you hit the road and you got to make some decisions as to who's traveling or otherwise. First, today's episode brought to you by Gametime. Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly feel the call of the stadium. That's exactly where Gametime comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without the stress. And with the money you save on tickets, you can then splurge on foods, drinks, gear, and more. Gametime makes it all possible. And best of all, Gametime makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get the first pitch, and they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and a lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. And if you're like me, you get tired of endless scrolling trying to find the best deal, and that's why Gametime's Zone Deals is the go-to move, since it automatically picks the best seats in your section for you at the best price. And as always, you can get a view from your seat right there in the app, so before you buy, you know exactly what you're going to see. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use our code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and use our code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, Locked On College, for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last-minute tickets at the lowest price, guaranteed. Roster that changes a little bit now as we get into Big 12 play and you hit the road and you got to make some decisions as to who's traveling or otherwise. Obviously, the availability or injury report impacts these things, but sometimes other things impact these things as well. Is there any spot or like a side of the ball, position group, whatever, maybe that we should be keeping a closer lookout for something interesting to develop as the week goes along there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested in the cutoff, like as in like, okay, like who goes versus who doesn't. There's probably 3 or so positions I'm fascinated by, like O-line. Like which of those young guy? I just think it'll tell you a lot. And you're right. Maybe it's who's healthy, who's not, or
some of it.
So, some of it, but maybe it's just like straight up like, man, they're just better than this guy right now, whatever, more able to help us. Or they break a tie because they play on special teams, whereas the other guy doesn't, Yeah. I think your secondary, I'm kind of curious about the cutoff there, and like we can get into safety / corner and everything, because you're dealing with a lot of special teams activity there. And then wide receiver, because all your running backs are going to go, all your quarterbacks are going to go, all your tight ends are going to go, I think. And like people were asking, like, are you going to take 3 kickers? I bet they do, because Ian Hershey is a backup punter as well as like also a kicker. So you've always taken a backup punter. And that's what he is. So even if you take Stone Harrington and Upton Belafont, I mean, like Ian Hershey could be the best. Again, as you start looking at some of these spots, but because I think there's legit depth with your offensive line, probably your defensive line too, at receiver and the secondary. But where does it, where are we hitting that line? And like, hey man, you got to stay home this week, and that's, there's some young players that you would go, okay, well, and again, is it, hey man, well, he was late to a meeting this week, so we're going to go ahead and that helped decide what we're doing. All that plays out.
That's what I mean by it could be all sorts of things.
1,000%.
In school this week.
Yeah, 1,000%. But you would like to. It'll be curious to see who is in Utah and who's not. And we may not know all the reasons, but this is the first time that this staff on this particular team, one of the deeper teams that they have ever had, has to make this particular decision. And you think, man, you got 22 starters and you're traveling 74. 74 players isn't near as much as you think it is when you start factoring all the coverage units, special teams units, all the things. So anyway, that part, will get sorted out really. I guess starting this afternoon at practice and again tomorrow and then again Thursday, a walkthrough on Friday, because sometimes those decisions even get made or finalized after walkthrough on a Friday.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you go home. Hey, you go get your stuff, pack it up, go get on this bus and this plane, and let's do this thing. I mean, so
I know we're going to get out of here, but you mentioned the kickers, and that just got my wheels turning really quickly because we had, I think, heard a comment from both Coach Maguire and Coach Perry about feeling like you'll have a competition sorted out as you're leaving the non-conference. Well, here we are. You mentioned Ian Hershey, who I think actually got a kick for the first time this season, an extra point, I think it was, this last week, which was kind of interesting in that almost seemed to broaden it. I'm not going to try to extrapolate too much from some garbage time stuff, so maybe it's nothing. I think Stone Harrington, for whatever it's worth, has had the most complete resume, and he's your kickoff guy as well. Whether that makes a difference or not for field goal kicking, I don't know. But I guess this is still ongoing, going to Salt Lake this week.
Wonderful question.
And we're out of time, Chris. Let's tackle it on
because fill in the blank.
Yeah.
It's 21-19. It's your ball. It's 37 seconds left. You're on the 31-yard line, and you're trying to go 1-0 in the league versus 0-1. Who goes out there? I tend to think that's Stone Harrington. I really do.
So, yeah.
Now I say that without knowing what else is going on up until that point in the game. So that could change in the first nearly 4 quarters. And why did I land on 21-19? That's a very difficult score to achieve, but you get what I'm saying.
He's channeling.
Yeah, but like that's not necessarily something I would be super comfortable with.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh my God. I'm thinking about it. I'd really like to maybe get a hold of Utah and see, are you planning on a tight one in the fourth quarter, or what do you guys want to work up? Do we need to really care about that this week, or whoops? Just like you began the episode talking about these one-score ball games. Here we go. And I think we're still in sort of an unsettled kicking situation, though I do think that hierarchy is still the way it was coming into the season. So if that's unchanged, then maybe it is more settled than we think.
And yet all Belenfant is done wrong is missed one extra point in a blowout. Yeah. That's really the only hiccup he's had.
To me, Chris, I didn't even think about that, honestly. I kind of let that slip. I'm just thinking like there's an edge for Harrington. He came in, I think hierarchy had him at the top. He has the 40-something. Was it 9 or 6 or I think something to his credit like that. That was a lot. Yeah. No. The field goal. I think he had a longer one, didn't he?
Yeah. He's made a 47-yarder.
Yeah. So he just had that opportunity. He made good of it. We didn't have many of those opportunities otherwise. So thin margin, but something to pay attention to. And back into the one-score conference as far as the difference between these teams. Usually, here we go. Buckle up. All right, we got to get out of here. Some things to consider and things to revisit, of course, as we roll through the week. So I hope you'll stay with us. Get subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you never miss an episode. Chris, appreciate the insight and the time as always, man. Enjoyed it. And we'll see you for the next one.
Yeah, man. Keep hope alive, people. We'll talk to you next time. Big week around here for the Red Raiders and the Utes.
Things will be sorted out, and it kind of feels like whoever's coming up short on Saturday, though clearly not ruled out of anything, you feel like you're going to be taking the long way around to try and get back to where both these teams obviously want to be. So can't wait to get to that, but can't wait to get to the next round with you. Appreciate your time as always, and thanks to the everydayers for always being out there in the Matador Mob. Hit our show notes and find a link to a free 14-day trial. That's your direct line to Chris and myself with one-on-one text sent straight to your phone. For Chris, I'm Casey. As always, we hope to see you back for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.